And things have been improving greatly since the last administration, and we want to keep that rocking and rolling. And one of those people who could be doing that is our current Attorney General here in the state of Michigan, Bill Schuette. Bill is running, as I had explained last segment. We interviewed Bill a month or two ago after he announced his formal plans to run for governor as a Republican. So first he must get through the Republican primary and then on to the general election. Bill, thanks a lot for calling in. I do appreciate that very, very much.
Hey, Renk, it's good to be with you on BCK on a cold, beautiful Michigan morning and listening to your little Stevie Wonder, Reach for Higher Ground. I like that. So good morning. I'm excited to be with you.
All right. Yeah, not only BCK, but WGIM in Lansing and WKMI in Kalamazoo. I hear that this Monday you have some doings going on.
Well, we do have some doings going on, and I'm grateful for the support and endorsement of Governor Scott Walker, who's a Midwestern jobs governor in the state of Wisconsin. Has done a tremendous job there, and he is endorsing my campaign for governor, which I really appreciate. And so Governor Walker's coming into the Grand Rapids area and then over to southeastern Michigan area as well, and we're going to have a big day. And I appreciate the support of Governor Scott Walker, a talented guy who's, like me, I intend to be Michigan's jobs governor. And these two states are so important to make sure that the blue wall, the Democrats want to rebuild the blue wall, right? We're not going to let that happen because we want to make sure that we reach higher, and we're not going backwards. We're not going backwards to the days of Jennifer Granholm and all her lieutenants. The Michigan business tax, and I want to eliminate the Granholm tax increase. That's a good way to us to reach higher ground as well.
Right, and I want to get into that. I did want to ask you a three-part question. First,
I'm glad you asked about Scott Walker. That's a big deal. Thanks.
No problem. Here's the three-part question. Kind of kick this all off from a higher level, not just a higher ground. What makes you a conservative? What does that mean to you? And what policies will you push as governor that you feel are conservative and will help all the people here in Michigan?
I have a record of experience, and I think experience is important. I have a record of experience at cutting taxes, promoting welfare reform, and being supportive of President Trump, making sure that we beat Hillary Clinton in the election of 2016. I didn't jump ship or desert the party like some did. Rather, I stuck with our Republican brand and was a leader, and to make sure that phony Jill Stein recount that was defeated. And so my actions as a conservative Republican, as a legislator, and understanding the significance of being opposed to abortion, those issues, as an example, are important. And I'm a no nonsense. Let's cut taxes, and so people can keep more of what they earn, and the government takes less of what you make. Kaboom! That's I think important experience and a record, and I'm not apologetic about any of it. Rick.
Well, we do know that Governor Schneider is opposing further tax cuts, and as I've not heard what Lieutenant Governor Calley's position on that, and I know State Senator Pat Colbeck, another challenger of yours, is looking to totally eliminate, and he was on and explained how he would do that. It's my understanding, as you kind of just stated, that you would like to roll back the Governor Granholm tax hike that was passed in 2007. So essentially bringing us back from, right now, 4.25 to 3.9%, as was promised to us, was supposed to happen a while back. How would you cover what many would say would be a reduction of taxes flowing to the Michigan Treasury, at least until that increased business activity? Because that's the number one thing it's always hit. Well, if we're going to reduce taxes, well, how do you intend on paying it is what they'll say. And we know that business activity will eventually do it. But what are your thoughts behind that, Attorney General?
Well, a couple of things. And rank number one, I applaud the Republicans in Congress who worked with President Trump to provide tax reform for Michigan and America. And look what's happened. Already, FCA is bringing, FCA, Fiat Chrysler, bringing $1 billion in investment to Warren, Michigan, to build the Ram in Michigan, not in Mexico. and that tax reform, employees of FC are getting a $2,000 bonus. That's really significant. Tax cuts work. We need to do what we need to follow suit and roll back the Granholm income tax increase, eliminate that once and for all, drive a stake, a dagger through the legacy of the failed governorship of Jennifer Granholm, and do that right now. And that would be about a 10% tax cut. I want us to do this now. I don't think we should wait. And here's why, Renk. We need to make sure that Michigan is a growth state and a paycheck state. And if you look at other states, they're growing faster than Michigan. Yes, we've rebounded, right? But there are still 55 counties that have lost population in Michigan in this decade. You got 8-man football teams. Schools have to get a multiple group of schools together to form a ski team. And this isn't about whether they like skiing or football. The fact is our problem is population. So we need to attract people to Michigan. And you know what? 110 people move to Nashville every day to work because their taxes are lower and there are more jobs. A 747 plane load of people come to live in Austin, Texas, because there's more jobs and paychecks and lower taxes. So we need to compete and win. We need to win against these other states that are growing faster than we. I want to be judged, Renk, as the governor who, during my course of time as governor, we're opening schools instead of closing schools. And we're adding members to our congressional delegation instead of losing members because we're a smaller state. If we don't cut taxes and take leadership on it, we'll be a smaller, less significant state.
But as I said,
leadership's about big vision. If you don't have big vision, we'll have tiny steps, and we can't have incremental steps.
Well, I would definitely agree with that. But as I said, when I was interviewing State Senator Patrick Colbeck, again, a challenger of yours, he came out and said, we're going to eliminate. And I asked him exactly how he intended on doing that. If you become governor, you know that you're going to be hit with, well, how are you going to cover that? How would you answer those people who are going to say, how are you going to cover that, quote-unquote, 10% reduction?
We're going to have a combination of growth that will occur by putting more money back into people's pockets, just like what's happening right now under Trump and Republican leadership in Congress. And we're going to have to make adjustments, throughout government to make it for everything to balance. That can be done, but if we don't do this, everyone will be bragging about how you cut up a shrinking pie. It's all about we need to have big aspirations and expend the pie instead of arguing over how you divide a smaller pie. Right?
On air with me is Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette, and he is vying, and we'd like to be our next governor in the Republican primary first, and then moving on to the general election. Again, Bill, thanks a lot for holding on. I appreciate that. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the...
It's great to be with you. 2 sessions with Renk. I'm going to have a great day for crying out.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I hope you do. There's a couple topics I would like to get your thoughts about, because I'm sure my listeners throughout the state of Michigan want to know where you stand one way or the other on these topics. And so let's kind of do a bullet point or rapid session here. Obviously, a big concern these days is education here in the state of Michigan. We talk about it quite a bit here in the Live with Renk show because it is important that we fix what hasn't been fixed for decades and try to improve our next generation's lot in life via education. And so where do you stand on Common Core, Attorney General Schuette?
Opposed, period.
Well, there's one. Check mark. There you go.
This is a 2-minute drill. I used to play quarterback, so I know how to do this.
Oh, okay. Well, guess what?
I have a long-standing, on the record opposition to Common Core. This has to be local decisions, not some federal mosaic trying to impose it upon states. So, next question.
Well, actually, what's interesting is you said you used to be quarterback. I was a starting center, so there you go. I'm snapping the ball to you.
You and I are going to do just fine.
Yes. So, okay, now, do you see Michigan on the right trajectory when it comes to K through 12 education? Would you tweak it? What would you like to do?
You know what? I think we need to try all sorts of new ideas because Michigan's third grade reading scores are abysmal. We're 49th in the United States of America in terms of reading proficiency. And my goal as governor, when I'm governor, Michigan children will read. I'm going to have a reading office smack dab in the governor's office because that'll be emphasis for me. I'm an options and a choice guy. I value teachers immensely. I went to public schools in my hometown of Midland, and so did my wife, and so did our children. But some schools some children are trapped in status quo, and they're not learning. And so we need to grade schools A to F. We need to have grants as incentives to high-performing or improving schools. We need to have transportation scholarships, Renk, because some family may want to go to a school that has programs for special needs or special programs, or their neighborhood school is failing. Transportation scholarships through a foundation is a good way to give people access. So when parents have choices, then kids have a chance. And we need to have emphasis on apprenticeship. Not everybody needs to be a software engineer living in Cupertino, California. There are plumbers and welders and electricians and carpenters that are, that help build this country and are needed to rebuild Michigan and America's infrastructure. I want to make sure that whether you're college ready or job ready, every Michigan high school graduate's ready.
So you would continue the effort that Governor Snyder has concerning trades?
Well, I think that's an important emphasis on skilled trades and apprenticeship. But we also need to go smack dab at this reading initiative. Ronald Reagan, Renk, described America as a shining city on a hill. But if you can't read to get to the shining city, if you can't read the directions, this isn't a place called hope. And so reading will be my fundamental effort here because, frankly, when you're 49th in America, we're failing Michigan children. That's unacceptable.
Okay, real quickly, health care. Well, we know Healthy Michigan is supposed to end in 2020, and that's because of that, what some may call a poison pill. And that's if government funding falls below 100%, which it has now, and savings are negative. Would you let it die, and that's the Medicaid expansion, or would you promote an alternative?
See, I think we're going to have to look at alternatives, and I think the Trump administration will look at some type of block grants to the states for Medicaid. And I was opposed to the Obamacare expansion and the taxes, and that's another good thing about the reform of taxes that Washington did to eliminate that individual mandate. And the point is that we need to have market-oriented health care where you get to choose your doctor, not the government, and we're not forcing employers and people to have bureaucrats choose the doctor. So I've been on the record opposed to the Obamacare expansion of Medicaid because it has the federal government telling the states what to do.
So then you would allow that to die if it comes to that because government funding is below 100% now, and
we're going to have to retool what we do. Renk is the short answer on that, but it's going to be market orientation, not Obamacare orientation.
What do you see as some of the biggest cost drivers in health care?
Well, I think that some of the cost drivers are the government imposition of decision making on families. My wife's dad is 98 years old and World War II fighter pilot, POW. He just fought so that you and I can have this conversation on the airwaves today. And you go through the myriad of the hoops the government has when you're trying to figure out VA and all of that. And this is replicated across the state and across the country. We need to have more precision and more precise. And the government rules and regulations adds cost upon cost upon cost. That's the biggest. That's one of the biggest cost drivers, sir.
Yeah, because when I was over the break, it's something I just happened to come across and doing, even I couldn't get away when I was off for 2 weeks looking at stuff. And I had never known this, but I saw this thing called Certificate of Need that Michigan passed in 1972, which basically says you have to petition the government as an ambulance service or, just a whole group of hospitals and surgical services. Skilled nursing, and they decide if they want you there or not, which then kind of stifles competition, and then possibly due to that, that's competition being stifled, it's going to be increased prices. So MRIs are about, what, $2,500 here in Michigan, and in some states they're as low as $250. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, see, I'm a free market guy, and again, that's part of my conservative cred. And so the point is that we need to have market solutions, not government solutions. We ought to have market options and alternatives instead of the government trying to say, well, you can have a hospital here or a nursing home there. We need to open it up.
So you would look at, do we still need the certificate of need program, or at least retooling it?
I'd scrub the CON, the certificate of need program, thoroughly to see. Let's try different options. The fact is, we have to try different options for Michigan to grow and be a state where we have innovation. We need to have a state that's more like Uber and Lyft instead of the closed lens of a taxi cab union, as an example.
Okay, well, another one real quickly. Energy choice. Where do you stand on that, Attorney General? On air with me is Michigan's Attorney General Bill Schuette, who's running for governor here this year.
Hey, I'm a guy who wants to, have greater options and choices in energy performance and providing energy choices. So I'm for choice.
Okay. And two more things real quickly. I know your competitors, State Senator Patrick Colbeck, Lieutenant Governor Brian Kelly, and Jim Hine campaigns have all agreed to participate in a series of town hall events. Do you intend on participating in that, or where are you in that? It was not part of the press release that came out.
Well, you saw a press release on some secret alliance of three folks who are panicked and desperate because I'm ahead, trying to have, it sounds like a novel, a spy novel of three folks colluding in cahoots to come after Schuette. Now, in grade school, a buddy of mine beat 7 people playing football. It was 7-on-2, and we won. And the fact is, this is good news. We're going to have debates, and spirited debates, as we go through this campaign in the coming months. But this secret alliance just is political gimmickry. My mom used to say, Bill, this is as plain as the nose on your face, when she was telling me a fact. This is as plain as the nose on my face that those three folks, because they're behind and are desperate, engaged in some political gimmickry to come up with these town halls, that it was a collusive agreement that was agreed on beforehand. And everybody recognizes it's politics because I'm ahead.
But you do intend on debating with them, essentially.
We're going to have spirited debates in the months ahead, but it's not going to be part of some cabal or secret alliance. I think everybody saw that was just politically gimmickry, and it's been ridiculed by people all across the state.
All right, I got about 40 seconds. You being a law and order man, Michigan Attorney General, what are your thoughts on the Nassar case from Michigan State?
Well, my team, the Department Attorney General, and I prosecuted Nassar and his horrific, just despicable activities where he violated young women and stole their trust and just horrible sexual abuse. And we led the prosecution. He'll be in jail for the rest of his life. I was at the courtroom yesterday in Ingham County in Lansing.
Sorry about this, but I got a hard break.
These young women.
Again, sorry, Attorney General, got a hard break. Appreciate you coming on. You listen to Live with Renk. We'll be right back.